You're on mute.
Oh, I forgot to take myself off mute. Silly me. We might kick it off now, guys. We've still got people joining us, but yeah, we've got a bit of housekeeping to run through before we start today's session anyway. So good morning, everybody. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Kathy Ramsey, Partnerships Manager here at the Tourism Industry Council of South Australia. Our In Conversation series is a program we undertake each month to keep South Australians, to keep our tourism industry and stakeholders engaged and informed. I'll introduce Sophie, our speaker today from Tourism Australia, in a moment, but just a couple of housekeeping matters to keep the session as seamless as possible. If everybody could please keep their microphone on mute and use the chat function as I have earlier, just for any questions or comments. I will endeavour to work through the questions as we go through the session, and we do allow enough time for Q&A at the end. So, the beginning of this month, South Australia welcomed its first direct flight from New Zealand as part of the Trans-Tasman bubble, and New Zealand will operate 3 to 4 flights direct from Auckland to Adelaide, helping restart what is South Australia's, what was our 4th largest international market pre-COVID. The SATC have continued marketing to New Zealand throughout the pandemic, as it was expected to be one of the first international markets to open. Whilst the SATC has remained active in the digital space, they have ramped up television, commercials and online marketing to ensure South Australia is the front of mind for New Zealand to get ready to go out and explore. The Hey New Zealand TVC was launched late last year in anticipation of borders opening, has already had over 1.5 million views. In addition to this, they've also have a number of striking billboards across Auckland, Wellington and New Zealand. Since the announcement of the Trans-Tasman bubble, the SATC key tourism portal, southaustralia.com, has seen a 30% increase in visitors from New Zealand. So we can really see that they've got an appetite to come back and experience our beautiful state. So with this in mind, SATC are continuing to work quite closely with Tourism Australia to maximise the opportunity and marketing reach. So it's with my pleasure today, I am joined by Sophie Treasure. Sophie is the South Australian Industry Relations Manager at Tourism Australia. Tourism Australia, as many of you are aware, is the government agency responsible for attracting international visitors to Australia. With the introduction of the two-way travel bubble between Australia and New Zealand, I felt like it was really the perfect timing to get Sophie on to connect with you all and discuss marketing activities and the opportunities for us to leverage what TA are doing out in market. Welcome, Sophie.
Thank you so much, Kathy, and hi everybody. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us today. I do have a presentation that I'm going to I'm just going to share my screen. Won't be a moment. Can you all see that in presentation mode?
Yes, absolutely, Sophie. Thank you.
Okay, hi everyone. So thank you so much for having me today. I'm just going to rearrange some things on my screen so I can see what I'm doing. Before I begin, I do just want to acknowledge the traditional owners of the first people of the land on which we meet today, and I would like to pay my respects to the elders past, present and future. So today I'm only going to do a short presentation, and then Kathy and I are going to have a bit of a Q&A with you all as well. But I just wanted to give you a bit of an update with what we've been doing, and including what we've been doing in the New Zealand space as well as ways in which you can work with Tourism Australia. So let me just move to the next slide. So yes, I'm going to run through our response to the New Zealand travel bubble, our domestic and international activity. I think somebody needs to go on mute.
Somebody who's just jumped on, appreciate if you could just keep your microphone on mute, please. Thank you.
Thank you. Getting involved with our Holiday Here This Year campaign, marketing opportunities through TA, and also utilising our TA resources. So before I press play, this is our new advertisement that we launched about 2 weeks ago on Epic Holidays. So let me just play this for you.
Ah, Australia. No one loves the big things more than me. The big pineapple, the big banana, big potato, prawny. But I reckon we can find an even bigger big thing.
Bigger?
Much bigger. All right, what about the big barrier reef?
Oh, great.
Oh, she's big. The big
Terrestrial ecosystem.
tree place.
We were after big, right?
Sorry, what were you saying?
Gosh.
Look at this.
The big red.
Wondrousness.
Catchy.
Yep. Big! 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 Wow.
Oh, look at the little one.
He's got a big heart. You know, Zoe, I reckon Australia is the big thing.
Yep.
Let's go big, Australia, because there's nothing bigger or better than a holiday here.
So I hope you recognised Kangaroo Island in that advertisement. It appeared a couple of times in there actually. And we obviously took Hamish and Zoe down there and they did all their filming a couple of weeks ago. So it's great to have them on board as ambassadors. And I will go back to that advertisement a bit later. So New Zealand, as Kathy mentioned at the start, New Zealand obviously is our first travel bubble. And so it opened on the 19th of April, which was so exciting that, you know, we've got some international movement again. And obviously it's our first freedom of movement that we've had in over a year with an international space. So aviation capacity is also ramping up to really be in line with consumer demand, as Kathy mentioned in the opening piece, along with new air routes, which will also increase destination exposure and drive demand. We're also finding that the New Zealand consumer confidence is rising, as is Australia's, but New Zealand in particular, and it's been the highest level it's been in a long time. And finally, obviously visiting family and friends, that's going to be one of our main target audiences because they're the first group that will come back due to pent-up demand and less friction on their behalf. This is just a couple of examples of our New Zealand campaigns that we did in market, and it's all about first. And I will show you our advertisement as well. It's part of our international strategy to just drive conversion where possible in the short term, really helping to support the industry. So as I said, these are just a couple of examples of what we did in New Zealand and what we're doing in New Zealand still. And we've also repurposed some of our There's Still Nothing Like Australia assets to just provide a warm invitation for the New Zealanders to come to Australia. In terms of partnerships in New Zealand, we have a three-prong attack. We have our airline partners. So we are currently in conversations with airlines to talk about future relationships and do some retail conversion with them. We are engaging with KDPs in market. And here's just a couple of examples of KDPs that we're working with in New Zealand. And we're also in market with TripAdvisor. We're really targeting the aspirational level, getting the dreaming phase right. And finally, the whole of industry. So our strategy on this one is to just provide resources for industry in Australia and New Zealand to get involved in our campaign. And I'll go through some of these points in a moment. I'm just going to show you our ad in New Zealand, just so you can see what we're doing in market.
Hey New Zealand, it's Oz here. This is hard to admit, but you're pretty good at coming first. I mean, you only conquered the world's biggest mountain, so we reckon you can handle the world's biggest reef. You beat everyone to Antarctica too, so go on, have the first icy beer off the tap. And it's hard to believe you guys were the first to fly a plane. But was it ever over stuff like this? And that infamous PAV. Okay, let's not get started on that again. But how about we give you the first bite of this? The sun may hit you guys first, but it really warms up by the time it gets over here. And if that's not enough, you adrenaline junkies showed us the bungee jump. But how about this to get your blood pumping? Or this? Or this? Or this? Or even just this. So New Zealand, isn't it time you added another first to your list?
I love that last scene. I can just picture myself doing that sometimes. So that's kind of a quick snapshot about New Zealand and where we're at with that, and happy to talk about that a bit further later on. I just wanted to run through a bit of our overarching domestic campaign. At the moment, or our whole holiday here this year really has been an overarching campaign, and then we've got different iterations of it. But our main strategy is to really encourage Australians to travel like our overseas visitors would. So it's really trying to get Australians not to fly and flop, not to arrive at a self-contained apartment and, you know, sit by the pool and not go and experience the regions that they're in. So that's what we're really trying to persuade Australians to do. So this is a bit of a summary of what we have done since relaunching our domestic holiday here this year campaign. It has taken on various iterations to really address those specific challenges that either regions or cities have faced in recent months. So our first iteration was back in October, and we were just trying to build confidence and encourage Australians to get out and explore domestically again. And then in the lead up to the Christmas and New Year holiday season, we were really trying to persuade Australians to buy an experience as a gift, as opposed to a pair of socks or something like that. And then in January, we really moved to trying to get Australians to do an experience whilst on holidays. So with like geofencing and mapping and things like that, we were targeting people in region, promoting what experiences there were to be had. In January, that was in January. And then after the holiday season, we started to focus on the cities, because the cities have been hurting. Sydney, Melbourne, Adelaide, all the major cities have really been suffering, particularly hotels midweek. So we did a whole cities escape campaign in March, and we will actually be doing a next iteration of that in early June, just really trying to get people driving traffic into our city accommodation and experiences and activities. In March and April, we had a focus on premium and luxury, just to urge Australians to take up more of these experiences in their own backyard. And then now we've obviously just launched our Epic Holidays iteration, which was that ad I just showed you with Hamish and Zoe. And that's really trying to get Australians to take a longer break. Don't just do a 3-day weekend, take a longer break, make it an epic trip, a memory maker, and go further afield and try and visit those internationally reliant destinations. So this is just a quick example of some of the branding we've done for the campaign. We've done some newspaper wraps, we've done out of home billboards, things like that. You may have seen those around and about. And we have been working with some partners on this campaign, just to keep you in the loop, primarily the Flight Centre Group with Travel Associates. From an experience point of view, we've been working with Big Red Group on their Adrenaline platform, and Klook through the OTA system. And we've also, from a domestic point of view, really been focusing on our Aussie Specialist program. So we only launched the domestic Aussie Specialist program in June 2020. That never existed before. It was only an international based program. And we already have had 4,700 travel agents register to participate. And of that, 2,400 have qualified to become Aussie Specialists. It's amazing that so many Australian travel agents just didn't know what was in their own backyard. So then moving on, I just wanted to give you a quick snapshot about our strategic priorities over the next 12 months. So we've got our headwinds and then we have our tailwinds. So from a short-term headwinds, our short-term goals, it's really to drive opportunistic conversion in the short term. So we are working in the domestic market for as long as we need to, really targeting areas that need it most, those internationally reliant destinations. And so we're working closely with SATC to focus on the destination-specific marketing. Then we're also trying to expedite recovery for aviation and distribution. So aviation, as we all know, is critical, and we are working with our state partners, airports and airlines to try and rebuild this in the most effective way and as quick as possible. And keeping our aviation and distribution partners focused on Australia will ensure that they are ready to convert when the time is right. In 2020, we ran around 100 virtual events and facilitated about 20,000 meetings, just making sure that we were in touch with all our distribution channels. Then we have our platform for and support of the industry. So one of the aspects we've really focused on in our last financial year is really the communication and keeping everyone as informed as we can, and doing things like this, you know, making sure we're speaking with the industry as close as we can. We're trying to also bolster the business events industry because this remains an important pillar for us. The business events sector is another area of tourism that has been seriously and severely impacted, and they really need support. So we've done things like our Event Here This Year campaign, encouraging domestic events to take place in Australia that would usually go offshore. And then we move into our long-term goals and strategies. So firstly, Indigenous tourism. We've added this as a new pillar to really elevate and champion Indigenous tourism. You know, the stories that they have to say really, and the traditions and the culture really provide us with a competitive advantage on a global scale. So we're really trying to harness that and work on that more within our organisation, and we want to really facilitate a greater understanding of Indigenous heritage and drive the uptake of Indigenous tourism experiences. Then sustainable travel, that's a new strategic pillar that we have brought into the organisation to drive awareness of and the capability for sustainable travel. It really is about advocating for Australia's sustainable tourism offering in a way that meets increased consumer desire and really make sure that the industry is ready for that desire as well. And finally, long-term demand and generation growth. So we are focusing on ensuring Australia remains competitive by continuing to drive long-term demand today. We know that Australia is likely to be one of the last destinations to fully reopen. So we really do need to work and ensure that Australia continues to be competitive in the global landscape. So traditionally, some of our headwinds we're turning into tailwinds. So time, distance and cost were always three factors that were reflective as to why people didn't come to Australia. So we're really trying to turn that on our head, and it's working in our favour with COVID, that basically we are a sparsely populated destination, we are isolated, and safety and quality is really high on people's wish lists when they travel. So what were our negatives have turned into our positives. And this is just a quick snapshot that shows top destinations. Well, basically it shows when we ask people what their factors are that are important to them when picking a destination, safety continues to be the most important factor in their choice. And then it's closely followed by nature and wildlife. So as you can see on these graphs, they are both, with Australia still ranking very high up on these criteria. The next quick update I just want to give you on was our National Experience Content Initiative, which some of you may have heard about. We announced it a couple of months ago. But as we all know, imagery is everything when it comes to inspiring travellers to dream and plan and book a holiday to Australia. So that's why we announced a $12 million content creation initiative, which is aimed at experiences. So it's trying to support tourism businesses across Australia in their recovery and driving increased visitation by helping the operators better market their own experiences and attractions. So it will, this whole initiative will provide a suite of visual imagery for up to about 1,800 tourism experiences from around 57 regions across Australia, just to ensure that operators' marketing materials and online product listings stand out in search results and are booked more often by both domestic and international travellers. I just want to give you an example of one of the videos. So we've done a pilot program on the Gold Coast, and I just wanted to give you an example of one of the videos we've created from that. Maybe it's
What I'm passionate about is introducing people to our aquatic environment. What we do when someone comes to surf, we start off with just a very simple explanation and demonstration on land. Then we practice, we get it right on the land, and then we jump into the surf. We're really lucky here in this little part of the coast where we've got a whole range of really good, high quality waves. One of the coolest things is just that look you see in someone's eyes and in their face when they've caught that wave, that first wave, they've jumped up nicely, they're riding that wave, and that's the stoke that is so cool to see in their eyes when it's just like, wow, we did that. They've now got that stoke and that love of doing something in the ocean.
So if there are any operators on the call today that want to get involved with the whole initiative, you just need to speak to your RTO in the first instance. And it looks like we'll be rolling out the South Australia component early in 22. I'm going to be really brief on international, but it's still a crucial part of our day-to-day work. But basically our strategy is really to maintain long-term demand where borders remain closed, and then short-term conversion when bubbles open. And our key areas of focus are content, delivering new content and sharing that new content, social media, public relations, PR, localized events. So as you can see, there was we did some work on the recent Gavaskar Trophy, Gavaskar Cup. And then from a distribution point of view, really focusing on our trade events and training. So we are staying connected with our distribution channels. We have hosted 4 marketplaces at the ATE coming up, which I'll talk about in a moment. And then our Aussie specialists, we have we've trained 82,000 agents internationally over the last 12 months, and that's a 175% increase. So I'm just going to go through this quite quickly. This is ways you can work with TA. Basically, there's 7 key ways that you can work with us closely. Firstly, the first port of call is the Tourism Australia corporate site. So on this site, this houses all the information you need and is regularly updated as and when new opportunities arise. And I strongly recommend you do jump on and have a look if you haven't already done so, because there is a lot of information about what is available here. And a lot of the links that I have on this deck are also available through here. The Aussie Specialist Program, which I have mentioned a couple of times already, these, as I mentioned, there's domestic and international agents, but in terms of ways that you can engage with them, you can submit an industry offer or a value add to get a travel agent to come and visit your experience or accommodation, so that then they can go back and sell it because they've experienced it, they know what they're selling. It's the best way that you can engage with the travel agent. And the other way is our product training videos. So you can send me a video that's like 2.5 minutes long, and it shows what your premises are, your experience or your accommodation is like, and it trains the agent about what your property is. So they're 2 good ways to engage directly with travel agents. Social media is huge at TA. It's one of our key components. On the TA corporate site, we do have social media fact sheets, and they're here, and I'm happy to share them with anyone. And it really just outlines what our team is looking for. It breaks down what they're looking for, things like natural beauty, native wildlife and culture. And it also shows what we are and what we aren't, which is key, because we often get content sent to us and it just doesn't match what our requirements are. And it also breaks down all the formats that we need information in. Here's just a couple of examples of some social media posts for South Australia in recent months. And it range, we could get 50,000 likes through to 150,000 likes. It really just depends on the nature of the piece that we are promoting. But a lot of them are reposted from existing content. And what we want is for you to share your content. So whenever you do post anything on your sites, please make sure you hashtag See Australia or put @Australia so that our team can identify, or it will pop up in their feed so that they can then repost if it meets their criteria. PR is another big area that we can work closely with you. If you have anything new or exciting, or you're launching something, let me know. Send me a press release, and then what we do is we push it through to our PR teams, both domestically and internationally, and then we get write-ups. So here's 2 examples of some write-ups that we've had in recent times. One was in a Singapore Airlines magazine, and one was in Metro in the UK, just about South Australia. ATE. I hope there's some people on the call that will be coming to ATE, because it's only like 2 or 3 weeks away. But obviously our industry events are a huge way to work with TA. ATE this year is going to be fantastic. It'll be so good to have people in the space together. But basically it's going to be a different ATE to what we know in the past. And obviously we've got our domestic live component and then the online component where the appointments will take place virtually for our international distribution partners. And as I mentioned, we've been hosting lots of marketplaces that we will be looking at rolling out later in the year as well. Yeah, it'd just be great to have a face-to-face event again. Research and insights is a huge element within TA. We have a whole team dedicated to research and strategy and insights. And these guys come up with all these types of analysis and data and statistics and reports and things like that. They're all available on our site, and we dip into the market on a regular occurrence, usually about every 2 weeks for our for some of our consumer demand research. So if you do want any up-to-date research, jump on our website, or if you can't find what you're looking for, let me know and I can talk to our research team directly. And lastly, our toolkits. Every time we come out with a new iteration of our campaign, we also launch a toolkit with it. And that really breaks down what it's all about, how you can be involved, what, what assets you can use from us onto your marketing to leverage the actual overall branding and promotion. And so this is just an example of the toolkit we just launched for the Epic Holidays campaign. And one to keep in the back of your mind for when we do go when we go back into our international markets other than New Zealand, is preparing for inbound tourism, which is a document that's pulled together by ATEC, but it really does tick the boxes on what opportunities there are and what checklists you really need to make sure you have prepared so that you are ready to go back into market. So that's just something, they are updating that document, but that is just something in the back of your mind. And I just want you to keep in touch. So if you have any, as I said, any new launches, if you're going to organize a conference and you would like me to come and present, if you are hosting an event, anything, let me know. And I can pass that on to our PR teams, our international media hosting teams, our marketing teams, and obviously just keep me in the loop with what you're doing, whether it's good or bad. If you're struggling in any way and need some assistance, we're happy to help in whatever you can. And also make sure you subscribe to our newsletter Essentials, which comes out weekly on a Wednesday. And just wanted to say thank you.
Wow, what a wealth of information you have provided there, Sophie, and thank you. Just for everybody's reference, we will share Sophie's presentation on a post this on an email, so you guys can go back and look at it as a resource tool, and we can perhaps Sophie might be able to be kind enough to send through those social media fact sheets as well. I can attach that as that has come in as well on the chat function. And thank you, Mark, has shared those hashtags, and we will put them on the email as well. So you can be rest assured, after this call, you'll get an email with a bank of resources to help you reflect back on post this session. I would encourage anybody, if you've got any questions, this is a great time to speak to Sophie. I've probably got a couple for myself, popping my operator hat on as well. But yeah, feel free to drop anything in the chat function as well. So Sophie, I think it's all about trying to get involved in potentially the Aussie Specialist campaign as much as you can. What sort of you know, I think the Travel Club is a great initiative. What great offers have you been seeing other operators put through that's getting picked up by the travel agents? Because it's all about getting agents who are experiencing your product to sell it. And I do think familial programs is the best way for that. Any hints or tips on great sort of offers that you've seen out there that have been picked up quite well from agents?
Yeah. Look, it really does vary, and it really depends on the nature of your business as well. We get offers. So we get a whole raft of offers, and it could be a 10% discount. It could be a 50% discount. It could be complimentary. And, you know, if you're bringing your partner, the partner pays, or something like that. So it really does vary. If it's, say, a small tour, then they might want to offer 10% off their rack rate, or 15% off, slightly below an industry rate. But if it was more a hotel, it might be a 50% discount on their room rate, so that they can be experiencing those premises. So it really, there isn't one answer for all the variety of operators we have. It really just depends on your business model as well. You know, you might not be able to justify a 20% discount, but if your model does allow it, then I recommend it, because they get taken up. We've just changed our platform, and we're still in the process of changing our platform, so that we get data analytics on how many offers get taken up. At the moment, we just get anecdotal feedback from operators saying, oh, I've had, you know, 5 agents come through that are Aussie specialists. And so it'll be great once we get the data set up, so that we can quantify and justify how many people are going through that program.
Absolutely. And then plus that gives information to operators on how to tweak offers to further attract those agents. But I do like your comment on speaking not just to the agent, but generally we're not traveling alone. So an agent's not traveling by themselves, so there could be a partner involved. So yeah, I do like the idea of making it desirable, not only just to the agent, but their travel companion as well. So that's fabulous. And I do feel like what you've shared, it's really about making sure that us in the industry as the product are leveraging what TA is doing, as well as, you know, the SATC to its full advantage. So it's definitely, you know, I loved how you shared examples of those social media posts, using those hashtags, and then potentially us getting involved in their national experience content as well, to be able to use great imagery on an operator side of things for a part of their marketing, and then that feeds into what TA is doing. That would be, I could see, a nice synergy as well.
That's right. And with that whole National Experience Content Initiative, which we internally call NECI, because it's such a mouthful.
Oh, great.
The beauty of that whole initiative is that the operator will own the imagery, the RTO, the STO, and TA will all have access to it as well. So, you know, it can be used on a personal level, or it can be used on a destination level as well. So there's a lot of synergy with that program. So the TA is driving it through the STO, through SATC, and then it's going to be fed through the RTOs. And I do believe that South Australia is going to be early next year before we get there, because we are photographing like 1,800 experiences, so it's quite time consuming. So we will be getting to South Australia.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a big piece of work. And lastly, you know, I know from my own sentiment, and, you know, would love to hear from people on the call as well about those messages TA's trying to get through. Holiday a bit longer, spend domestically as you would internationally. I know in terms of my own circle, that message is getting out there. I've got family going up to Cairns in the middle of the year for 2 weeks. Myself, we spent nearly 8 days in Kangaroo Island in April as a family, and did everything from quad biking to some great treks and sandboarding, and out with the out on the water as well. So, you know, it'd be great to hear from operators on how those messages are getting through, hopefully with people experiencing more product and lingering longer. I think that was a term used many years ago as well.
Yes, and I think also you guys have been so lucky that you in SA that you've had the experience vouchers as available as well, which a lot of other states haven't rolled out. So hopefully that's driven a bit more demand and uptake for operators of experiences to really try and you know, boost their revenue.
Absolutely. We've had some great support initiatives come through from the Tourism Commission with the Great State vouchers. So they've been very welcomed for our industry. So guys, if we don't have any further questions for Sophie, I think what's really important here is connecting with Sophie and connecting with your regional travel organisation and your reps within the South Australian Tourism Commission. That's what it's all about, being connected with these great resources in our industry. So like we said, we'll flick out an email post this call with a bank of resources, and thanks for Julie steering us to the link to the social media as well, sharing that on the great chat. And we'll also include Sophie's contact details. So like she said, send your details through. If you've got stuff happening that she can share to PR, you know, it's better to send it than go, or sort of thing. So, you know, it's better to give Sophie more and she can use it to where she best sees fit within the channels and directing that into the internal channels of TA.
Exactly. Yeah. The more the merrier, I say.
Absolutely. Thank you. Well, thank you, Sophie. Really appreciate your time today and giving us a great update, sharing us some valuable insights to what TA is doing and perhaps how we can further leverage that to our own benefit. So, yeah, thank you. Everyone else, everybody enjoy the rest of your day and look forward to connecting soon.
Thanks, Kathy. Thanks, everybody. See you next time.
Thanks. And oh, Rain, I just saw your question there. I will put Sophie's details on that email. So please be rest assured you can contact her directly. All right. Thanks, guys.
Thank you. Bye.